that's all I can hope to do.
I thought you said something interesting. You talked about how, when you were talking about Muhammad Ali, that, you know, this was a guy who, in essence, I'm paraphrasing what you said, this guy who fought for dignity as opposed to dollars. Why do you think so many more fighters nowadays, it's more about the dollars and maybe going viral than it is about fighting for a cause or fighting for something?
That's how you could tell the real ones from not the real ones. For me, like, you could watch and see which one of these world champions, which one of these fighters, which one of them came from someplace, and who just is an opportunist. Because, like I said, I never was a good boxer, but you know, you could walk into a room and know which good boxers would stand up for themselves or fight for themselves or, you know, be something, do something. You know, not every boxer is a fighter.
Yeah, good point. Roy, you know, when we were younger and we would fight on playgrounds, and you'd be like, yo, I float like a butterfly, I sting like a bee. You can't beat me, I'm Muhammad Ali. So when you got in the ring, you had speed, you had everything. Obviously, Ali used the rope-a-dope. What did you take anything that you saw from him and say, oh man, I think I may want to employ that in this next fight, or anything like that in any of your fights?
I have to say two things, okay? Number one, every question you ask about Ali, I want to answer. That's how ate up I am with Ali. Yeah. Every question you ask, I want to answer. Yeah. I'm doing itching at the face. Let me answer, because you ain't saying my name, right? That's how much of an Ali fan I am with you. So I feel like she almost my sister.
Yeah.
So with that being said, though, it was crazy for me because it's crazy how God works. At 5 years old, I watched Muhammad Ali fight. And at 5 years old, and I know y'all might not believe this, but at 5 years old, I was the worst agitator in my family. At 5 years old. So I didn't know what my purpose was, but I knew I needed to learn how to fight because I had a smart mouth.
Yeah.
And I always got on everybody's nerves. Right? So my dad was watching Muhammad Ali, and I'm watching Muhammad Ali get on this guy's nerves, beat him up, make him mad, constantly piss him off.
Yeah.
And the madder he got, the more Ali beat on him. I was like, wow, I can do that. I said, if somebody teaches me how to punch, I can do that. Because I'm never gonna get mad. But I'm gonna outthink you and make you wanna kill me. Like half the household wanted to do anyway. You know? So when I saw that, I was like, wow, here's what I'm supposed to be doing. So I was like a kid in the candy store watching that. So everything he did, I took it mentally into every fight I had. My goal was to beat you at the press conference.
Yes.
And beat you in the ring. And if we beat you afterwards, I might have tried that too. Because we thought winning meant winning every aspect of a fight. I mean, from the start to the finish. So Ali started messing with you as soon as he knows or he thinks that y'all might fight, he started messing with you. That's how you gotta do it.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah,
Keep that in mind.
I'm just trying to figure out, now maybe I'm his brother-in-law. My stock is going up.
You know, the beauty of your father was his quick wit. And, you know, even as a kid, I'm with you, even as a kid, I used to watch Howard Cosell all the time. I knew I wanted to do television. So when I was a kid, I used to talk like this. Howard Cosell as well. And I remember watching the clip of him talking to your father and saying, Muhammad, you've lost a step. Now you're going to fight George Foreman. The power, the strength of this man. How do you get away? And Muhammad looked at him and he said, you know, Howard, I talked to Mrs. Cosell. And she told me, you're not the man you used to be.
He was wise. He was wise. He was wise.
That is my guy.
Yeah, he really was.
So here we are, 50 years after that legendary fight. And, you know, it's been well over a decade since we've had a video game. And all of a sudden, this video game, Undisputed, man, this thing is hotter than hotcakes. Everybody fighting. Matter of fact, just called a fight a couple of weeks ago. Tim Zhu was fighting in Orlando, and Caleb Plant, former super middleweight champion, came up to me, and we were talking about Undisputed. And now he loves playing Undisputed because he plays as himself, Roy Jones Jr., or Muhammad Ali in the game. And in fact, we got some video of the game here of the greatest fighting Roy Jones Jr. here. And you can see the speed of both of these guys. And if you ever fight with Ali, they will tell you, especially when he's fighting the heavyweights, his speed is unmatched against any fighter. And in Roy's speed
Roy
and
looking
power
at him.
is unbelievable in this game. And you can see why, just looking at this, why so many kids, adults, and everyone is on Undisputed. And it's quite a coup that you've got Muhammad Ali in here. So, Ash, you gotta tell me, why was it so important, out of all these great fighters that are around right now, that you had Muhammad Ali in this game right now?
So look, I think for me, there is no Undisputed without Muhammad Ali.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just growing up, watching everything he did, and just being in a position where, like, I could be, even attempting to have him be part of something that we've created, that in itself was just amazing. So for me, it was like, I have to do anything and everything to make this happen. So, like, obviously being a boxing fan and watching all the fights coming, over the last 10, 15, 20 years, I think for me it was incredibly important that, Ali's legacy continues. People talk about the champions of today, but, there won't ever be anybody like Muhammad Ali again. So for me, like, no matter how many fighters are in the roster, like, without Ali, for me, Undisputed is in the game. So I needed to make sure it happened.
That's great. That's great. Absolutely. I will say this, not only to have him in it, I mean, the realism of the game, even the fighters, the essence when you're playing it, it is phenomenal. I think the only thing that it's missing is that you don't have the preeminent voice and face of boxing as a commentator in that game. We'll talk about that.
Got to get that done.
That's the only miss, but we're here for Ali, so we'll get to that in a little bit later.
You're definitely Ali fan.
What era? Tell me, what era did you choose when you put Muhammad Ali in here?
So it was Ali Frazier. That was. So there's two versions of Ali in the game. One was like between 64 and 67, and then the Joe Frazier. Because I think just with again watching him fight and even the Joe Frazier fight, it was just absolutely incredible. The resilience and everything that he showed, and I think again just like in terms of Undisputed and what it is, for me it was all about capturing Ali's swag, and he showed that throughout his entire career. And for me, I thought if we could almost get close to like that swag that he shows in the ring, then I think we've got a good game on our hands. And for me, the foundation of the game in terms of the movement of the fighters was essentially based on Muhammad Ali.
How is Ali being in the game, you think, resonating with young gamers now?
I think it's huge. I mean, there's fighters now that still try and, I'm not going to say imitate,
Yeah.
but like the clips that go viral on whether it's TikTok or whatever with fighters showboating and doing things. Ali was the original guy that did all of that. So it's great to be able to, I guess, show this to kids who, might not have watched or seen Muhammad Ali fights, but then when they can see him move like he does in Undisputed, then I hope that at least, even for if it's 5 people or 50,000, if it makes them go and watch an actual Ali fight, I feel like we've done our job there.
Heather, he's in the game. Talk to me about how did you participate when you got the call, and tell me why you wanted to be in it.
It was kind of cool. They called me and said that I come out to LA. And I was like, yes, I want to go. And they put you in that little bubble, like with the, like with the suit on.
Brooklyn, for real.
So you can make your little video in the character. It was really special to be a part of it. You know, there are girls right now who are world champions, Olympic athletes. Like when I won my world title the first year, or the year I turned pro, the first year that girls were in the Olympics. When I turned pro, girls weren't even allowed to box in the Olympics. So I'm really lucky to be up here. And maybe 20 years from now, they'll talk about all the stuff I did in women's boxing. For right now, it was fun.
That's fantastic. Roy, what about for you, man? When you got the call, and tell us why you wanted to participate in this.
Well, I liked it. I enjoyed being the first game I was in. So Fight Night, that was an awesome game
Yes.
too. So when they said we're gonna do a new game and update everything about it, that really grabbed my attention right away. But then when I did the first run, I came back and I see all this shoulder roll crap. I said, what the hell going on now? That's not Roy Jones. What are you doing here? So he had to fly me back over to the UK to redo it. You know, with these bad knees and everything. So it was tough, but I wanted to give people the real, or as close to reality as I can get. And with that being said, I think it turned out phenomenal. I love the game. I'm not even a big gamer, but I love the way I'm represented in this game. And when you see things like this, it makes the younger guys who don't know, or young girls that don't know, make them sometimes go back and research who these people really are. Because you can learn a lot if you pay attention to who they are and from whence they come. Wow.
That's
Yes, sir.
Ash, give the people some insight, because I'm telling you, this game is so popular, on the response. Now that Undisputed been out.
It's been incredible, you know. It's quite humbling. Even being, you know, sitting on the stage, I really shouldn't be here, to be fair. I'm happy just listening to these amazing people talk. But yeah, we did like 1 million units in just over a week, which was incredible.
Yes, sir. We've been on that game, though, y'all. We've been on that.
As first of all, a boxing fan, like I just felt boxing had been left out in the dark ages as far as like the digital age goes in gaming, and you know, other combat sports are always at the forefront. So it's just amazing to see that, you know, we're trying to put boxing back on the map as far as the younger generations go.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And for those who may have some questions, say, hey, was such and such not in the game? How does that work?
It's been an incredibly painful journey. I'm not gonna lie. Like we've been making the game for like 4.5 years now.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, we've tried to bring everybody on board. And look, like 99% of people have been absolutely amazing. Just going back to Roy's comment there, I mean, Ali's obviously was the people's champion, but you know, in my eyes, like, so is Roy, because when it comes to a video game character, like most people are like, okay, cool, it's a game, and you know, it looks great. And we had world champions come in to do motion capture, right? And we're talking like, you know, fighters like Carl Froch, who, you know, amazing champions. So we had Carl do some motion capture for Roy, because you know, obviously Roy was in the States. And then Roy saw this and he was like, listen, there's only one person who can move like Roy.
Yeah. You out there for that.
Important for Roy, or that important to Roy, that players would see the real authentic version of Roy Jones. So, you know, Roy cared that much about his character in the game that, he literally flew over to Sheffield and we had him do all the moves, and, you know, to see him do all of that, massive respect to Roy for, putting him through all those paces.
That's fantastic. Khalil, why do you think it's so important for you, your family, to make sure your father was in the game?
I think I would just touch on what Roy said, and it's about the children and generations to come and keeping him in that space. Mike Madden, the most famous game of all, Madden, his son purchased Deer Lake Training Camp, which I think is a point of interest. And it's just amazing to me how that video game became an entire culture. I mean, it's a movement within itself, and so, no pressure. But don't mess it up. You know,
She's
this
awesome.
video game really stands to keep children connected and, like Roy said, encourage them to learn who Daddy and Roy and everyone was, yeah.
That's fantastic. I wanted to wrap up our discussion here, and let's talk about legacy with your father. What do you think the younger generation should know about Muhammad Ali and his life?
I think that they should know that he was someone who had a real strong sense of self-love and identity. Oftentimes when I talk to kids, especially within our own population, African-American children, there's so much of our identity that has either been taken or narratives in history untold or mistold. And I think because my father had such a strong core sense of who he was in self-love, that through some of the most difficult battles in the ring and outside of the ring, it was enough to keep and preserve him with enough love, not just for him, but to give to everything he ever touched and did and anyone and everyone he ever met. So I think that probably would be number one. And two, one of my favorite quotes of his, so one of them, service is the rent we pay for living here on earth, but the other one I love is, I hated training every minute of it, but I said, suffer now, be a champion forever. Sometimes kids have to remember, you know. And I were talking about it a second, like you want something, you want to put the work in, you know, to have that passion match what you want. Like, do you really want it? You're itching for this one? Because he was so outspoken on this.
You know I am.
I know. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go work out. Yeah, Jason and I all hyped up in the hallway, but I'm like, yeah, it's what it is. And I think that kids also have to remember we have to work for what we want.
That's fantastic. Jason, you have represented so many famous people. Katy Perry, I mean, you can go on and on the list of entertainers that you have been with. Why do you think Ali was so unique? Because he was a boxer, but was so much more than that to so many people.
I know a rock star when I see one. I've been very fortunate to have discovered and marketed some of the biggest rock stars of the last few generations. He was a rock star. Let's face it, not only was he ridiculously handsome and knew it and loved to talk about it, but he was a consummate marketer. He basically invented freestyle rap, right? I mean, there he was spouting these poems on the spur of the moment, like, come on, that's ridiculous. And then he was the humanitarian that we all recognize. And also, he was a man who put not only his career in jeopardy, but his life by taking a stand that at the time was extremely unpopular, right? He refused to fight in a war that was wrong, and he knew it was wrong, and he said it was wrong, and he was hated for it. And, you know, while other civil rights leaders of the time were being murdered, he had to know that his very life was at stake because he wouldn't play the game. And he spoke about it so brilliantly, so beautifully, so eloquently. And I think today that is missing, not just from professional athletes, but from musicians to a large degree who used to be leaders back in that same era of civil rights, of movements, who used to take unpopular, courageous stands on things. And I hope that between the game and the 50th anniversary of what we're doing here today, his legacy will once again inspire new champions to be their best selves, to put their own self-interests beneath their moral requirements to stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves.
Roy, I'm gonna come to you at the end.
Okay.
He's itching.
I know he's itching. He's itching. Heather, how do you think Ali even influenced the way you guys athletes interact with the media.
Well, the one thing I always loved about him was that he was so honest, despite what anybody thought. And I think nobody could say I'm not like that.
Brooklyn for real.
For real. For real. For real. Brooklyn. For real.
The one thing too, I'll let you know about Heather, because again, I had the opportunity to do her like very first fights, I think. You know, this is a young lady who at one point was, you know, training people, trying to just pay her rent for her and her young daughter and make a way. And this young woman from Brooklyn, you want to talk about pulling up your own bootstraps, not only started fighting, made money, but became a champion. And I think anybody can learn and be inspired by her story.
Yes, sir.
Ash, what do you think, in your opinion, the legacy of Muhammad Ali?
I think it won't be matched again, really. You know, people talk about like once in a generation, once in a century. I don't think there'll ever be another Muhammad Ali. And I think for us back in the UK at the studio, we kind of used Muhammad Ali's story to kind of inspire the team, where like going back to, I guess, the pre-Sonny Liston fight where everyone was thinking, yeah, this guy's got no chance. Or even the George Foreman fight, right, where he was pretty much written off. And I think for us as a studio, starting out, everybody was kind of saying the same thing, like we had no chance in terms of making a boxing game or coming up against the big guns at the time to try and even, you know, accomplish something like this. So we kind of used that as inspiration throughout the studio. And I guess just to give a little insight into how something like this gets done, back in 2021, when the game was almost in its infancy, we actually had a release date towards the back end of 2021. And we only just launched 2 weeks ago. But the turning point was when we signed Muhammad Ali. I was like, okay, this game is nowhere near ready to have somebody like Muhammad Ali in it, because I thought, like, if I don't do justice to Ali's legacy, then not only is his family going to be after me, but probably everybody in the world. We just had to make sure that, we did justice to his legacy, and it literally meant delaying the game until I was happy that it was ready. And for me, like, his legacy, I'm hoping we can continue with Undisputed.
Roy, I have you wrap it up here.
Don't worry about that. Bear with me, okay?
Yeah, so we'll go two-tier, okay? How do you think Muhammad Ali influenced how athletes now engage the media? And how would you like all of us to remember and celebrate the greatness of Muhammad Ali?
You gotta remember the time when there was no social media or nothing. He was the most known person in the world.
That's right.
That says it all. The most known person in the world because of his personality, his attitude, what he stood for, the way he stood up against unrighteousness. I mean, how does a person from Louisville, Kentucky become the most known person in the world? We got the Hitlers of the world, the presidents of the United States of the world, the presidents of Russia. Nobody know anybody more than they know Muhammad Ali. Come on, man, how? That's almost miraculous. We talking about, it takes Jesus Christ to be that known. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's that known and that respected or that revered. So for me, it's important that the kids learn who he was, what he stood for, why he stood for, why he believed the way he believed, who he represented when he was out there. And not just in the boxing ring, this is what else I learned. You don't just represent people like that when you're in the boxing ring, you represent them in everyday life. just like he pulled over, picked that guy up, took that guy inside and got him a job. That's what life is about. We don't have enough of that today. We don't have people who have true compassion anymore today. Compassion that Muhammad Ali had, we've been a much better world today. Because we see more people helping one another out instead of smashing each other. You understand me? The sport of boxing is down right now, and I hate to take y'all through all this too. I told you I was gonna take a minute. The sport of boxing is down right now, partly because the way the commentators handle it. You know, this lady right here is a story that should be revered. There should be a book and a movie about this lady right here. This lady did something that would encourage any woman from any walk of life to be able to stand up and go fight for yourself.
Yeah.
You understand me? She did.
Brooklyn.
Boxing has some of the most beautiful stories of any other sport because boxers usually come from such a bad place or such a hard background, and they literally have to fight their way out. That's what this one did. She literally fought her way out. I have nothing but the utmost respect for people like that because I know how it is to be the underdog. I know what Muhammad Ali's legacy was. So that being said, at the end of it, people can say what they want, but the fact of the matter was, when I became who I became, I wanted to do it so that if Muhammad Ali was watching me, he'd be proud of me. You understand me? He was proud, he was dark, right? So people say, oh, you fought too long, whatever, he did too. You know, because we can't stop when we fight. That's what we do for a living, right? But for the most part, when Roy Jones was in his prime on top of the world, if they thought he could beat Roy Jones was looking for him. Why? Because that's what I learned from Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly want to thank all of you for coming out here and being a part of this. I want to thank you guys for educating us.
Right back at you.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, if you want to fight Roy Jones Jr., not literally, because you get jammed, but on the video game, Roy is going to play you all in on the video game on the 5th floor, in the lobby, and you can pay him in Undisputed and see if you can beat him.
Ain't that good? So you can win.
I'm gonna knock this shit out, bro.
Now, if you want to play the video games, you can go to the 5th floor, and we'll let you play Undisputed. By the way, Habib, the creator of Undisputed, please give him a round.
Yeah.
Former WBO featherweight champion of the world, Heather the
Brooklyn.
the renowned Jason Flom.
Yeah.
Hall of Famer himself, Mr. Roy Jones.
Yeah.
The beautiful, the talented Miss Scully Alley.
You ain't live.
I didn't even hear what you got. Thanks for coming out, everybody.
Thank you.